Good evening. I will call to order the Tuesday, April 26th meeting of the Noblesville Common Council. Mr. Davis, will you do the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Lees, will you call the roll?
Mr. Ayers,
Present.
Mr. Boyce,
Present.
Mr. Davis,
Present.
Mr. O'Connor, Mr. Peterson,
Here.
Mr. Schwartz, Mr. Smith,
Present.
Mr. Sparks, Ms. Wiles, Mr. Vice President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of the executive session memorandum from April 12th.
Move to approve. Second.
There is a motion and a second. This is a hand vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Approval of the minutes from the April 12th council meeting.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Approval of the agenda.
I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to move item 200422 to right after miscellaneous.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to amend the agenda. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0.
I would like to move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Petitions or comments from citizens who are present, I do not have any, but if you would like to speak, there are slips out in the lobby and you can give those to the clerk. Committee reports, finance.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We met April 21st. Greg O'Connor, Darren Peterson, Aaron Smith, and myself. Amy Smith discussed the economic development area of Innovation Mile. Holly Ramone discussed with us the 2022 salary ordinance revisions. Jeff Spalding discussed fiscal action for the OFA position reclassification and restructuring. And Amy Smith and Sam Barris discussed with us fiscal action, the economic development administrative position, excuse me. Sam Barris discussed another fiscal action of planning position reclassification and also quarterly report of revenues and expenditures. That and the claims come to the council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you.
I would move to approve the claims.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to approve the claims. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. New ordinances for discussion. Council to consider ordinance number 21-04-22, an ordinance amending ordinance numbers 30-09-20, changes to the civilian employee personnel handbook.
Motion to introduce.
Second.
Holly Ramone.
Good evening. As outlined in the attached letter, these revisions affect section 4.1 vacation and 4.4 sick leave. The changes include clarifying language regarding if we have a new hire, how much vacation time they receive and when. It also allows our civilian employees to roll over 40 hours of unused vacation time year to year. And this is very similar to the police and fire meet and confer agreements. And the last thing is a rule that would prohibit an employee who, once they've given a 2-week notice, to be able to take benefit time that they would not be paid out at termination. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
There was a question that came up with finance. If they are actually sick, how do they still?
They could use, if they were getting paid out vacation time, they could use that vacation time to be paid.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we will see you the next meeting, but Also no. Is this the same, just, do we have to introduce this twice?
Yeah.
Because this says for appointed officials. Yeah, okay. Council to consider ordinance number 22-04-22 and ordinance amending the salary ordinance for appointed officials and employees of the city.
Motion introduced.
Second.
Holly Roman?
As outlined in the attached letter, these changes include a change in FLSA status, job title changes, pay grade, reclassification, a new position, and just a couple pay increases. And as mentioned, this was discussed in detail during the Finance Committee meeting, and will be further discussed during the transfers portion of tonight's agenda. As a reminder, on the salary ordinance, these amounts are listed at the maximum based on pay grade, and it doesn't necessarily mean that's what the incumbents in those positions are actually being paid. And I'd be happy to go through each position change with you if you would like, or ask or answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Okay, so we'll see you at our next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Miscellaneous number 1, council to consider resolution RC-17-22, a resolution approving a declaratory resolution and economic development plan of the City of Noblesville Redevelopment Commission establishing the Noblesville Innovation Mile Economic Development Area, which also removes certain property from the Bergen-Tegler Economic Development Area and the order of the City of Noblesville Plan Commission.
Good
Not
evening.
Andrew Murray, Chuck Haberman.
For the record, I am not Andrew Murray.
Correct.
Chuck Haberman, Assistant Director for covering for Andrew, who's out on paternity leave, which is exciting. And we'll be excited for him to come back next week. This resolution is out in Innovation Mile, which is one of the steps in creating our innovative district out on the east side. This will take portion of that property out there, out of the Tegler-Bergen economic revitalization or economic development area, and create a new Innovation Mile TIF district. There's a number of steps in this. This is one part of that. It'll go in front of the RDC and the Plan Commission tonight. This is just approving the steps that have been taken with the RDC and the Plan Commission through your authority.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Vice President, I would move to approve RC-1722.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Miscellaneous number 2, council to consider resolution RC-18-22, a confirmatory resolution designating property as an economic revitalization area and authorizing a tax abatement for Texon Properties LLC. Chuck Haberman.
Good evening. This resolution is a confirmatory resolution to confirm the resolution that was passed 2 meetings ago in order to approve a tax abatement for the Texon Tau property project on the property outline in the attachment. This would require a public hearing as well as the next item, which is the second portion.
Any questions for Mr. Haberman? If not, this is a matter of public hearing, so I will open the public hearing for resolution RC-18-22.
Mr. President,
Mr. Ayer?
seeing no one from the public coming forward, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
There is a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0.
I would move to approve resolution RC-1822.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to approve resolution RC-18-22. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Miscellaneous number 3, council to consider Resolution RC-19-22, a confirmatory resolution designating property as an economic revitalization area and authorizing a tax abatement for Texon Properties 2 LLC. Mr. Haberman.
This is in conjunction with the last resolution. This, recall, is a second building on the same property for leasing the space.
Any questions? This is also a matter of public hearing, so I will open the public hearing for Resolution RC-19-22.
Mr. President,
Mr. Ayer?
seeing no one from the public coming forward, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to close the public hearing for Resolution RC-19-22. This is also a hand vote. Raise your right hand. 5-0.
I would move to approve Resolution RC 1922.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to approve RC-19-22. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Okay. Previously discussed ordinances. Council to consider ordinance number 20-04-22, an ordinance authorizing the city of Noblesville to become a member of the Central Indiana Regional Development Authority pursuant to IC 36-7.7 and resolution RC-21-22, a resolution adopting a preliminary strategic economic development plan for the Central Indiana Regional Development Authority pursuant to IC 36-7.7. Mayor Jensen.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President, members of the council. Thank you for adjusting your agenda. I was coming from an event, and we still have a traffic problem in Noblesville. So we're working on that. Sometimes I have to be reminded on a daily basis. But great to be with you again to go over this resolution. As Mr. Vice President mentioned, several years ago, the Indiana General Assembly adopted legislation allowing for a new RDA, or Regional Development Authority, for Central Indiana. This, what you have in front of you today, is a resolution and ordinance adopting us into that new RDA. The first action will be to accept the $20 million READY grant that we received for the Central Indiana White River region of the RDA. And then from then on out, we'll be focused on hiring a team to go after kind of big picture items and different grants from our friends at the federal government, as well as kind of corral all of us Central Indiana communities into some cohesive projects. And that's actually a meeting I was coming from, was the Indy Chamber and the Indy Partnership gathering us all to sit down and talk about some big picture items that we all can be working towards as a region. I think we all have very similar challenges in the areas of workforce or health or traffic or road construction and funding, for example. So we'll be tackling those challenges really as a cohesive unit and using this RDA as the governmental entity for which to move this forward. So there's no fiscal impact at this point in time, no fee attached with it. So just simply asking for your adoption tonight to opt us into the Central Indiana Regional Development Authority. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Anybody have any questions? I just have a comment.
Sure.
I just wanted to thank you and Sarah Reed for all the work that you guys have done on this. I know that usually things like this come to us, and we've been a leader on this one. I
Thank
think
you.
That's a big step.
We've had conversations with, with individuals like yourself that would like to see Noblesville leading these efforts going forward. We should be. There's no reason we shouldn't be. Kudos to Sarah Reed. She spent weeks on end really helping drive this with the support of her team. So I think the region is continuing to see us a leader in this conversation, and appreciate your support in order for us to be that leader.
I would move to approve ordinance 200422.
Second.
This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Ayer,
Aye.
Mr. Boyce,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 nay, the ordinance is approved.
I would move to approve RC 2122.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Transfers. Council to consider transfer TA-09-22, an appropriation transfer in the general fund to allocate funding for restructuring and position reclassification and the Office of Finance and Accounting. Mr. Barris.
Yep, thank you, council members. Sam Barris, Office of Finance and Accounting. So earlier in the evening, you heard from Holly Ramon, our Human Resources Director, on some proposed amendments to the city's salary ordinance. Some of those items do not have fiscal impacts. However, several of them do have fiscal impacts. So the 3 transfers on the agenda tonight are all the ones that have some cost associated with them. So this first item, TA 0922, is covers the cost of 2 position reclassifications within the Office of Finance and Accounting that were on that salary ordinance change. The total cost is $11,906 that would be transferred from the non-departmental personal services contingency to OFA's budget. Keep in mind that is the full year annual cost of those 2 changes, so the actual cost in this year 2022 would be less than that amount. Happy to answer any questions. If not, I'll leave it there.
Any questions?
Which position is this?
Yeah, so there's two positions. One of them is an administrative position, administrative assistant position. I'm not sure what I just said. And the new title for that position would be executive assistant. The other one is the budget-financial analyst position, which would now have the title deputy financial officer.
Thank you. Any other questions? I would move to approve transfer TA 0922.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve transfer TA-09-22. This is a hand vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Council to consider transfer TA-10-22, an appropriation transfer in the general fund to reallocate funding for the move of an administrative position from the Planning Department to the Economic Development Department. Mr. Barris.
Yeah, thank you, council members. These next 2 fiscal actions are related in that they both involve administrative positions that are currently within the planning department. In this case, what's happening is the planning department is going from having 3 administrative assistant positions down to 2, and the funding for one of those positions is being transferred over to the economic development department, who does not currently have an administrative assistant. So in this case, what we're doing is we're asking you to transfer funding for part of the year over to economic development because planning has already incurred part of the year's cost for paying that position. So it's currently a vacant position too. That person that was filling it is moving into a different role. So
Thank you.
I would move to approve transfer TA 1022.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve transfer TA-10-22. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Council to consider transfer TA-11-22, an appropriation transfer in the general fund to allocate funding for a position reclassification in the planning department. Mr. Barris.
thank you. So again, this is the final action, required fiscal adjustment from the salary ordinance changes. In this case, it involves the 2 current administrative assistant positions that will be remaining in the planning department. They are going to be having a title change that would be effective here mid-year. The new title would be Permit-Office Coordinator. And there's a small pay change that goes along with that. And again, this would be a transfer from non-departmental personal services contingency to the planning department budget, and it reflects the full year cost of doing those adjustments.
Thank you. Any questions?
I would move to approve transfer TA 1122.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve transfer TA-11-22. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Council comments?
Does the farmer's market start this Saturday or next Saturday?
Next Saturday. Yeah. But yes, it's
Thank you.
soon. Mr. Boyce?
Vice President, for anyone up here or anyone in the audience that would like to, there is a public meeting. The Indiana DOT is hosting a public meeting for all of the changes they're making on State Road 32 on the 18th at 6 o'clock at Hazel Dell. Should be interesting to see everything that they're proposing. So I just want to bring that to your attention if you did not know.
Thank you for that. Mayor Jensen?
Mr. Smith, I was going to bring up what Darren Peterson said, but the farmer's market will start not this weekend, but next, and will be held at the exact same location that it has been held in years past at Federal Hill Commons. Parking lot just simply shifted a little bit to the west on the other side of Wendy's. The exact same number of spots are there that were in the current parking lot under construction. So again, just a few extra feet to walk in order to get there, but the same footprint. Parking will still be available on the south side there at the old Riverview Colo lot as well, and multiple Noblesville's Finest will be out there to help direct traffic as well. So zero interruptions to the farmers market this coming summer, starting the first weekend in May.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, we are adjourned.